The table shows the values for functions f of x and g of x. What are the known solutions to f of x equals g of x? So my first column, I have x, I have f of x in my second column, and I have g of x in my third column. How am I going to find the known solutions to f of x equals g of x? Chloe is here with her latest tips and tricks. She wants you to know when a table has x, f of x, and g of x, the solution when f of x equals g of x is the x value. To determine which graph represents f of x equals g of x, plug an x value into one equation to get the y value. The x value where two functions intersect is the solution. Set the functions equal to each other to find the solution algebraically. Now that I have Chloe's tips and tricks, I can go ahead and see that her first trick here, when a table has x, f of x, and g of x, the solution when f of x equals g of x is the x values, that's going to be the trick that I use. So I'm going to look at my chart where f of x equals g of x. Now my f of x is the formula absolute value of the quantity 1/2 x minus 2. G of x is the negative absolute value of the quantity x plus 1 plus 4. So I'm looking where f of x equals g of x. What they already did here is they plugged in -4 for x, and they got 4. Then they plugged in -4 in for x here for g, and that's how they got +1. So what we're going to do is look where f of x equals g of x. So I can see that I have f of x equaling 3 and g of x equaling 3. F of x equals 1, and so does g of x equals 1. So where f of x equals g of x are the solutions. And how do you write that? It's the x values. So the x value right here was when it was -2 and when it is +2. Now the problem says known solutions because there could be more solutions. They only gave you a snip of the chart. They didn't give you the whole chart. So we can write here the known solutions to f of x equals g of x is when x equals -2 and when x equals +2. Now we can also graph this if you wanted to see it graphically. So you would just take a graph and then you're going to start plotting the points. So I'll look at the x and f of x first. So that would be -4, +4, and that's why we have this dot here. The next one would be -3, +3.5, so I have that graphed. Then I can go down the list and graph all the rest. Then I can go ahead and draw a line through those points. And then I can go ahead and start graphing x and g of x. So when x was -4, g of x was 1. So that would be the coordinate -4, 1. Then I could go to the next one, -3, +2, plot that. And then I could keep going down the line to do all of the rest for g of x. I get all my points, and then I can draw my line through it. Now, when you're looking at these two, f of x and g of x, look at where they intersect. Remember, the x values where the two functions intersect is the solution. So we have a point here at -2, 3, and at a point 2, 1. The x values for these are -2 and +2, just like what we got here from looking at the chart. So we can go ahead and box this in as our final answer.